Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
California has the largest population in the United States and the site of some of the most famous true crime cases in history. But there's more than meets the eye to the crime in California. Join Sean, Jessica, and Charles on the California True Crime Podcast as they cover crime both infamous and overlooked from around our state, while looking at the deeper history that goes beyond beaches and movie stars.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey Dylan, how are you?
I'm a big old juicy boy.
Man, you just never know where the day is going to take Dylan.
Oh man, I feel juicy for real.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. I'm just feeling sassy. Maybe it's sassy.
Jubilant?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So maybe you're mixing up jubilant with juicy?
No, this is authentic juice.
I'm going to get you some of those retro velour, like a tracksuit with the juicy across the ass.
Yes.
I'm going to get you one of those.
Dude, those
Would you wear that?
No.
Please do. With a little cropped jacket.
It'd be some great pictures on our Instagram.
I came a hair close, Dylan, to buying one of those a couple months ago.
Really?
Just for the nostalgia.
Did it say juicy?
Yeah, it was an authentic juicy velour, baby blue velour tracksuit.
That's the perfect color.
I almost bought it so I could relive my 20s.
Okay.
Man, remember when those velour tracksuits were like the shit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple.
They say things like juicy or princess on the butt.
Well, mine didn't have any writing on the ass, but it was just plain.
Oh, it was getting red.
They were so comfortable. Let's bring those back.
We should. Because I think in 2025, given everything that's happened,
Comfort is a priority.
Comfort is a priority. It seriously is.
It's become my priority.
Because even when I have what I call regular clothes, which have buttons and stuff, right, or zippers, as soon as I come home, bam, right back into my comfy athletic shorts or nothing at all.
I have abandoned pants that have zippers and buttons.
Yeah, I know.
I own like a pair of jeans and like one pair of jean shorts that kind of fit.
Right.
And that's it. I don't know why, but maybe it's just because I'm chunky. It's so confining to wear, jeans.
I just feel like my talent's being constrained when I have to have this regular outfit on.
I need motion. I need to be able to, kick and stuff.
Yeah, you never know when you got to do a combat role.
Well, I was going to say I never know when I need to bust into song and dance, like a musical number.
Right.
Yeah.
You always have jazz hands in your pocket.
Yes, I sure do. Okay, are you ready to get into today's episode, Dylan? We promised we would drop part 2. A little late with that, but sooner than later, right?
Yes, let's get right in. The first part I thought was, I was telling Heather, for me, it was one of those episodes that, wow, I can't believe we've been recording this long. So that means I'm actually, my brain's engaged. I'm not distracted, which I do fight all the time. So let's get right back into part 2.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I want to mention I put out a call for some listener stories ahead of Halloween. And let me say our listeners do not disappoint. Some of those have started to flood the inbox. And I am so excited. We're going to have a great listener story Halloween episode.
I cannot wait. I absolutely love listener stories.
Oh, man. October just around the corner. I've been thinking about decorating for Halloween.
Yeah.
Went yesterday to find some decorations. Was a little disappointed with the offerings.
Well, it's a little early maybe.
Is it, though?
Yeah.
It's never too early.
I feel professional today.
You look professional. You've got your hair all slicked back.
Yeah, I
You
do
look
have.
like an adult.
My hair's growing out, and it's getting past the uglies. I think now it's starting to lay down, and it makes me feel. You said I look distinguished.
Yeah, well, you got the little gray,
Right.
the graying sides.
All right.
It's like a little silver fox.
All right, so no, I can't. See how quickly I get distracted by my own beautiful hair.
You do. It's luscious.
Let's get into
It's very
part 2.
luscious.
I can't wait because I learned so much in part 1.
Well, I also, I got to give a shout out to someone, whoever you were, that decided to give me a play-by-play and a breakdown, timestamp breakdown of the case and all the things that I got incorrectly in the first episode, which directly came from news sources, so I'm not really sure how it was incorrect. But
Yeah, it appears
but they corrected me and gave me all the information. And I just want to say, you really seem to know a lot about this case. Maybe you should start a podcast, since the news media, the stories that have been out there are incorrect.
Yeah,
they got a first-hand account, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, this could be your next culpable. Seriously.
Yeah, it's
because you have an inside track
super helpful
that no one else has in all of media and journalism over the years since this case has happened.
But it wasn't the worst episode they'd ever heard on the case, Dylan.
And they said they would tune in for part 2, so thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for that. Maybe you can give us a play-by-play breakdown of this episode.
No, but in all seriousness, if you do have an inside line of information that is not in the public, please hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com, because Heather would love to pick your brain.
Yeah, there we go. All right, when we left you with part 1, Dylan, Kendrick's parents had taken those pictures of him post-mortem, and many of the relatives were wearing T-shirts with that image printed on them at rallies.
Now, okay, look, I got to stop you right there, because you did mention this, and I thought that's what you said the last episode. And people in the family obviously gets to do what they want, usually in any situation, because it's their loved one, it's their feelings, their emotions. But I find this a bit shocking, honestly. It's one thing to have a picture, hey, whatever, prom picture or what, hey, remember them, keep their face in the public.
I have seen people wear T-shirts that are like in loving memory of their relative, and typically they choose a flattering photo.
Yes, and I'm sure they're trying to prove some kind of a point here, but I've just, right quick, I'll say, this seems a bit ghoulish to me, almost like that's private. I mean, the state of your remains in my book is a private matter.
Well, it just seems, and again, it's their family and they can do what they want. And I'm not in their position, but I know that if it were my child, that would not be the way I would want to honor their memory. That's something I would not want the public to see.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Out of concern for their privacy, honestly.
Well, I just think about, if they're alive, would they be like, yeah, this is cool, you should put my face on this shirt looking this way? I don't know.
It seems a bit odd to me.
Well, there's a lot of things that seem a bit odd to me, Dylan, as we go through this case. We're going to have a good discussion at the end about some of the choices that the Johnson family makes.
If it gets crazy, I can take my shirt off.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
I'm not sure why you would do that, but okay.
That's one of the reasons I put a shirt on this morning, was so I could rip it off at some point if needed.
Oh, like a Springer moment?
Well, just like, it's almost like an exclamation point, right? I think we've all
when
seen.
somebody jerks their shirt off.
Yeah.
Like throws it down or something.
That's when you're getting worked up.
Okay.
So you'll know when that happens, if it happens.
Well, I'll know, but our listeners, fortunately, will not.
Oh, they're going to know.
They will not know. Seeing such a graphic photo, of course, ignited a firestorm of people demanding that this case be reopened.
And I'm sure that was the family's intention. Okay, and it seems that it's working.
And Dylan, to address questions you had in the first episode, why is the family crying racism? Kind of off the bat, you asked these questions. Well, you got to consider Kendrick is a young black male student at a Southern school. And given the dark history and sins of the past, coupled with the circumstances surrounding his death, the mysterious nature, and then, of course, seeing that post-mortem picture, where he looks like he's been beaten due to the lividity and the swelling, just the positioning of the body
Right.
upside down in this mat. I mean, it's not pretty, as we know.
No, it's in a very peculiar place. It was found in a very strange place.
It again makes the family feel some type of way. And folks, not involved in the case, but who are being presented with the family side, what the family deems evidence, and they're saying, look at this, it doesn't look good.
Okay, so I will say, which this is what always happens in these, or a lot of the times this is what happens in these situations, is it could be foul play, but not necessarily racially motivated. And I would also say in the South, which gets kind of a
bad rap
in many ways, I'm sure many of our listeners are familiar with, I would argue that black and white folks in the South have been figuring out how to coexist longer than anywhere else in the country.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for black folks, right?
No.
But just gauging from, we have a very large friend group,
Right.
that belong to the African American community, and we've spent a lot of time with them and just sort of seeing how they navigate through society in a small town. It just seems like most people in a small town, you grow up together, you played ball together, your kids go to school together, maybe your kids play ball together, whatever. And I've personally never witnessed anything nefarious, and I've not had any of my friends say like, this has happened and it's a horrific thing that happened to me.
Right.
And again, I'm not speaking for my friends, but I'm just saying I feel like we have had, we've been kind of deeply rooted into this friend group and have kind of witnessed just out and about I've never seen anything like that. And maybe we're just living in a small town, or we were living in a small town where that just wasn't common.
Right.
But I do think that people tend to think the South is some type of way when it's really evolved, or it's not so much that way now.
No, and that's true, and this isn't to doubt, and this is from the perspective of a straight white male.
Well, right.
And that's my perspective in some things, and that's not to downplay the terrible, horrible things that have happened in the past.
Right.
But it's just that I think a lot of people don't realize how much commingling and mixture of white and black there is actually in Southern culture, and that a lot of times, and you're talking about a African American friend group in a very small, predominantly white town. Now you're talking,
and kind of being maybe sometimes the only white people at the cookout,
right?
Right?
Yes. So what I guess my point in a long-winded way was just that we're not at each other's throat, and I do think as bad as people make it seem. You know what I mean?
Well, and I'm just going based on my observations. And again, it's not my personal experience. I don't know what people go through, but you would assume your friends would kind of share those experiences with you if they had negative experiences. And honestly, I know there is racism out there, and people probably listen to this and they're like, maybe you're naive or you don't know. But my experience has been, and living in the South my entire life, and in Appalachia in a very small town, is that people love black people.
Well, see,
you know what I'm saying?
That's a great sentiment.
They love the friendliness. They're just good people, like just good country people.
Boisterous, fun. They're going to welcome you in.
Yeah.
You're going to have a great time. You're going to eat good food.
You're going to sit down at mama's table and she's going to have a spread. You're going to get you some fish and grits. You're going to get some biscuits. It's just so welcoming. The music, the laughter, the jokes back and forth. Everybody's like having a good time. It's just really warm and welcoming and chill has been my experience. And I find that people tend to be like, oh, wow, and they love the community.
I've never
again, I'm not speaking from experience,
I've never sat around with a group of guys and laughed harder and longer than I have in a group of black guys. Maybe the only one or two white people. Maybe I'm the only white person. But just giving each other shit, carrying on, cracking jokes back and forth. It really is an experience unto its own. It's very... You can't experience it out. It's just great.
Well, I
it's
know we've
amazing.
been out, and again, we're kind of on a tangent here, but I guess I just want to share our experience, our perspective, having been in the South for so many years, and just kind of offer that, like, it's not always people at each other's throats. But, like, I know your buddy, we nickname him the Joker.
Right.
Okay. So, like, we'll just call him the Joker. So the Joker's out. I've seen this man go into a bar, and I'm telling you, the entire bar is like over surrounding him. Everybody loves him. He's the life of the party.
Yeah.
Everybody.
AKA the mayor.
Yeah, we also call him the mayor because
Right.
it's like, bro, why don't you just run for mayor? Because it's like everywhere you go, you got a fan base.
Yeah.
So, I just think sometimes there's more love out there than there is hate.
Right. So sorry about that sidebar, but I just think I like to point out to people who aren't in the South, and I
Right.
know people all over the world, literally, and all over the country listen to this, and country folk get along a lot better than some people think. You know what I mean?
Because we're really not all that different. Poor's poor
Right.
and downtrodden's downtrodden. And a lot of times people in the South, you are in these poor rural communities, and everybody's just in the same boat.
Yeah, just trying to make it.
Yeah, for real. But again, I mean, Valdosta is down in the heart of Georgia, and we all know Georgia's had a very turbulent history.
Well, it's true.
So back to this, and I mean, I can understand, I guess, where people could see this story and their immediate go-to is like, oh my gosh, this is horrific. And it reminds me of, there's been a breaking kind of story happening, and it's been all over social media about a young black male who was a student at a college in Mississippi who was found hanging. And it's been determined that there was no suspected foul play. And we're talking like the medical examiner is a black man, and but of course people are saying he's been lynched.
Right.
This is a murder. They're covering it up.
I want to say a lot of the people in authority position there in this case are black people, African Americans, however you want to prefer to say it. But yes, obviously, I mean.
But I've seen tons of people calling for like, some kind of investigation. This isn't lynching. This is racism. This is like the work of the Klan.
Okay, right quick.
In Mississippi.
Right. And honestly, a young black man hanging from a tree,
I see the optics.
I see the optics, and I understand those feelings, but let's do from a true crime, right quick, from a true crime forensic perspective.
Well, and that's what we're going to be doing with this case as well. So
what the investigators are looking at, what the coroner's looking at in the, the investigation on site.
Signs of a struggle, broken bones.
Yeah, if you are hanging someone against their will, I have to imagine that there's going to be a ton of defensive wounds, scrapes.
Imagine the hands. You're probably grabbing for the rope.
You're grabbing
gonna have
the
rope
rope.
burns. You're going to have injuries to your hands and fingers.
You're scratching people. You're fighting literally for your life. I have to imagine that there would be evidence, and a lot of it, if that was the case. And that's the way I really like to think about things like that. And I hate to believe in the 2025 that there is enough, super racists in control of an area like this that sounds like it might be predominantly black. I don't think that the racists would have that much power.
But I think it's a historically black college where this young man was attending.
I think so.
Yeah.
I just don't think that enough racists would be in control of the levers of the machine that they would need to just smooth this over, and let's act like it was a suicide is what they're actually saying.
Right, and I find parallels between this story that is now making the rounds, right, and Kendrick's story. So let's get back to this, Dylan. And like I said, like you said, we really need to examine this from a true crime, from a standpoint of forensics and evidence, and kind of a reasonable or like more of a logical, scientific point of view, right?
A more objective point of view.
And so as the story kind of goes on, I think you're going to see what I'm talking about. So with growing support and these questions surrounding Kendrick's death, his family creates a Facebook tribute page. And it is there that the family starts posting allegations against certain individuals who they think are responsible for murdering their son.
And again, they're well within their rights to do this if that's what you feel.
Now, the Johnsons circulated this post-mortem photo of their son with a caption that said, "Look what someone did to our son." Now, at first, the Johnsons do not name the boys that they think are responsible. But there is enough detail and specifics posted that it's not hard to figure out who they're pointing fingers at, especially in this small town. And let's face it, Valdosta is not a large place, so any sleuth really could piece together like what is being suggested.
Right, and the first people to do that would obviously be the locals who know what people look like, who you might be describing, and that information is going to quickly get out.
Right. So it didn't take long for a mob mentality to kick in and people start harassing and threatening these boys and their family. Now, the more the family speaks to the press, the allegations grow. And the Johnsons point to the fact that it took 6 hours for the coroner to be called to the scene. Kenneth also said that he went to the crime lab and that the cooler holding Kendrick's body was not cold at all, but rather warm, even suggesting it was hot. And he points that the coroner and others at the lab were attempting to destroy evidence to further cover up.
Okay, that's a very serious allegation.
It's a very serious allegation. Also, his family alleged that the clothing KJ had been wearing disappeared somewhere between the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the funeral home. Harrington Funeral Home signed an inventory slip which stated they had received Kendrick's personal items, which included clothing. So, having been someone who releases decedents to funeral homes, I did this job. There's a chain of custody and very specific paperwork that goes along with the release of a body and like a protocol, right? You have this very standard operating procedure, and one of those things is ensuring that a person's personal items are handed over to the funeral home. It's turned over to the funeral home. And even at times, we turn those items over to the family. Like if the family shows up demanding, I want their cell phone, their clothes, their money, you sign it over to the family.
So basically, this is a documented chain of custody of sorts.
Right. And it's a very important process. So that's how I know most agencies who are responsible, whether it be a county morgue, a hospital, the GBI, what have you. I mean, this is very, very important.
It's not something taken lightly.
You don't want this to come back on you, right?
And it's also, I think people feel it's important to make sure that loved ones' family get the belongings of the decedent.
Well, and on top of that, I mean, you don't really have a lot of place to store these extra items, right? Because, I mean, people don't want stuff. I mean, you don't want a pile of cell phones collecting over in the corner.
No, and I think sometimes people miss out. They don't think about the very, you can describe it as cold, but it's
you hand over dentures.
The logistical perspective.
You hand over all the things, right? I mean, here's grandma's dentures in this bag. You're going to sign for those dentures. I mean, things that you might not even think that you want, we're going to hand to you, right?
Because you're really just keeping this stuff kind of moving through the system.
Right. Well, the funeral home now this is what they say. They say they only received a pair of broken headphones when they received this personal, inventory of items.
Okay, that's the only item they received.
That's what the funeral home is stating. Now, again, like I mentioned, this very specific chain of custody when releasing a body and the personal effects to the family, to the funeral home. So let's be reasonable about this, Dylan. And my brain is always like, I want steps and order and logic. That's just how my brain works, is to look at the big picture evidence and kind of reach a conclusion, right?
Right.
So I have to go through the steps of this for my own brain. So a cover-up, as you mentioned in the Mississippi, the news story that has recently broken, would need to not only include county employees, but also state agencies. We're talking, tens of, maybe even up to 100 people?
Who knows? Maybe even, at least, let's say it's 100 people, which is almost an impossible conspiracy to pull off. Even with 100 people, you need 100 people's willingness to be in on this with you.
Right. So first of all, I always consider that when I hear it's a cover-up, it's a conspiracy, right? Is okay, well, you got to have all these players willing to go along with the story and not have a single person sing like a canary. And
not,
if you know human nature, it's hard. People don't want to keep their mouth shut about stuff.
and it's not only the 100 people, it's also considering the other 100 people that those 100 people associate or may speak to about this.
And we're not talking about just random people. These are professionals, sheriffs, police, state agents,
Right.
medical professionals. I mean, it's a vast group of people, right? So with releasing a body, there are these protocols and steps that must be taken. So it is more likely that the state agency... Okay, so think about it this way. Is the state agency covering up this murder, or is it more likely that a funeral home that has what I would deem, civilian employees, especially a funeral transporter who are sent to pick up the body and bring it back to the funeral home, that's usually like a part-time person, and they're paid like maybe $13 to $14 an hour on average. So it's not somebody who's making a ton of money, and their job is just to pick up and transport, right? So you got this person making $13, $14 an hour. Who would be more likely to be careless with KJ's personal belongings?
Maybe the person who could be new to the job, maybe the transporter.
And given what we know about numerous funeral homes in the country, these people are not always up to snuff. How many stories have we heard circulating in the news, even, this year, about shady practices at funeral homes?
Yeah, there's been more than one story.
Right.
Yeah.
So I keep that in mind because I like to be a fair person. Now, how many stories have come out about these bodies being mishandled, families being given like cremains that don't belong to their loved ones? I mean, there are a lot of shady funeral businesses out there.
Well, and I think some of it is just incompetence.
Yeah.
Because, again, people, I think I always have to remind myself of this. You having worked in this industry, and some of the things that some of the veteran people would tell you is that you think, and now I truly thought that a body was handled with reverence all along the way.
Well, you try
No,
as much as you can.
I'm saying, but it's
right?
also just it comes down to logistics, and you do have to move this body, and you might not always have 5 or 6 people, but no, the reverend. And I'm not saying this as a slight to anybody, but it really is. It becomes a business at a point of handling these remains, getting the right thing done, but it's not. I think what the average person thinks. It's not how it works. It's just not.
It's not pretty work.
It's not pretty.
And there are times when it's just, like I said, it's just not pretty work.
It's
right?
physical. You have remains decomposing very quickly, different ways. They don't have coolers everywhere that the body goes and stays for some amounts of time. Everything's not refrigerated. They don't keep it in this perfect state of fighting off decomposition. It just doesn't work like I really truly thought it did.
Well, if you're picking up a body in Tennessee and driving it to Florida to transport, or to South Carolina from Tennessee, cars don't come with coolers, bud.
No, I didn't realize that. I thought there would be a vehicle made for that. You know what I mean? But that's not how it works.
No, they're being transported in vans.
Minivans.
Hearses don't come with coolers. I mean,
cargo vans. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I mean, these are not refrigerated vehicles. So I think there's a lot out there that maybe just like the layperson does not know. So if these clothes were given to the transporter when the person picked up the body, and then they're saying, hey, I'm dropping this body off, and there were no personal items with this body, even though they signed for the personal items, I point the finger at the transporter, like the funeral home employee, right?
Right.
Because it's their responsibility to make sure not only does this decedent arrive, but their items arrive as well. And if the funeral home says, hey, we didn't get anything, we didn't get any clothing, then that shows me that this middleman, this transporter, did something careless with the clothing, either intentionally or just out of incompetency or laziness, or maybe just not understanding the importance of bringing these items in.
Well, like you said, oftentimes these people are part-time. It seems to be maybe a lot of turnover at that position in the chain of personnel in a funeral home. They could just be new. They might not have realized. They may have missed something and not
Or
realized.
just forgotten.
Or forgot- I mean,
like, oh yeah, this got lodged under the seat of the van, and I didn't see it and just forgot about it. And then 6 months later, you find something random under there, like, oh shit.
You don't know who that went with.
Well, the Johnsons allege the missing clothing probably contained evidence which could prove a homicide. By destroying the clothing, this further proves a cover-up. And remember, there was an emergency medical technician, an EMT, that had noted a bruise on KJ's jaw, but the autopsy report didn't make any mention of this. So again, this is just me being the reasonable person that I am that likes to look at everything from, a logical standpoint. Do you trust an EMT who has 8 months to maybe 2 years of training? Or do you trust the pathologist who is a medical doctor who's been doing this job for a number of years?
And probably did upwards of 10 years of college work and internship to get their certification.
Right. Well, pathologists perform autopsies every day and know exactly what to look for. But we're going to trust a report made by an EMT who doesn't really have training in examining body tissues, organs, fluids, etc. to determine the cause of death. I mean, an EMT's job is providing immediate care and transporting patients to medical facilities. And the condition of KJ's body, especially the head and face after being upside down for nearly a day, is probably going to look funky, right? So the EMT might think the jaw looks bruised, but in reality, it could just be where maybe blood had settled and it was dark.
Right.
Or looked like it could be swollen.
And the pathologist would be way more qualified to make that determination.
I'm just saying.
Well, I'm saying their expertise is in what happens to the body after death, right? Am I right?
So again, could this be a large-scale cover-up by multiple agencies with many different people involved? I mean, sure. Does that seem far-fetched to me? It does. Or do I trust in the work of professionals who do their jobs every day without complaints? So
Right.
you have a pathologist who's been doing this for 10, 20 years, whatever, 8 years, 5. I don't know how long this pathologist had been doing this work or had been in this line of work. But you got this person who does this job every day and they don't continuously have these kind of complaints. And then here's this family saying, this is a mass cover-up. You didn't do your job correctly. Now, the family shared photos with a retired FBI agent who is kind of turned into a private detective. His name was Harold Copas. He sided with the family. Copas also pointed out that no one had bagged the sneakers that didn't have blood on them and that those were not put into evidence, which further, proves that there's some type of cover-up here. Now, the Johnson family hires an attorney, and in May of 2013, they get an exhumation order to dig up KJ's remains for a second autopsy. The autopsy was private. It was paid for by the Johnsons and money raised by their supporters. They got Dr. William Anderson, a Florida pathologist, to perform this autopsy. Now, when his report is released, it was a bombshell. Anderson said there was evidence of blunt force trauma to the right neck soft tissues, which were consistent with homicide. He thought the injury was inflicted by another person and that KJ's case should be reopened as a homicide.
Okay.
So with his second autopsy, the Johnsons' beliefs are validated. The new report seems to open up more questions about what has happened to their son. The report suggests someone hit Kendrick, then rolled him up in the mat and shoved him into the mat. So not only did this person attack Kendrick, but law enforcement, the school, the coroner, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were all involved in covering it up.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty big conspiracy.
That's a big conspiracy. In October of 2013, the report also stated that Kendrick's remains had been stuffed with newspapers before he had been prepared for the funeral. Kendrick's internal organs were nowhere to be found. Now, this is gruesome, but you're going to have to listen to this to understand. Those organs were typically placed. Now, when you have an autopsy, they cut you open from chest down. Like your abdominal cavity is typically sliced open.
Spread
Open. Like you can typically remove the top and see all the internal organs, right? So they typically take those organs out, they examine them, and they're placed in some sort of sealed plastic bag, and usually inserted inside the decedent's body, usually back in the abdominal cavity. And then they're delivered back to the funeral home, who then goes through the process of embalming and preparing the body, cosmetically, fixing the remains, right? So the funeral home should have noticed when they picked up this body that there were missing organs. And again, I am blaming the funeral home for this.
So the organs are missing as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, a Georgia Bureau of Investigation spokesperson described the protocol to CNN. After Kendrick's initial autopsy, the organs were sealed in a bag and placed inside the body. The body is then placed in a body bag for pickup. And if the funeral home receives a body without the organs, they should contact the GBI to inquire why. Well, the Harrington Funeral Home says they did this and were told that the organs were, quote, destroyed by natural processes, which suggests decomposition, I guess.
Okay. That seems like you've seen in your short career in this industry some fairly I guess kind of tough, or I don't know how to describe it, people that have been through some significant trauma. Yeah. Advanced states of decomposition.
Yeah.
So do you think that would be 24 hours, around 24 hours? Do you think that the organs would be in that state from a layperson's perspective?
Well, it's hard to say depending on how long it took to do the autopsy. How long? I don't know. I'm not skilled enough.
Well,
I'm
I know.
In, school studying this stuff, but I don't know.
Okay.
I can't give you an honest answer on that. Now, okay. So that part is questionable, right? But let's discuss the newspapers. So typically a body during the mortuary process, when you're preparing a body for funeral, the body is typically, and I say the body, it's typically that abdominal cavity is stuffed with cotton or sawdust. And I've even heard that some funeral homes might use cat litter to fill that cavity. It's actually pretty common to put some type of material to fill the void of where the missing organs are.
So they're not looking all sunk down and weird if you're having an open casket.
Yeah.
So the clothes are actually hiding way more than maybe people ever imagined.
Well, if there's been an autopsy performed, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, as a funeral director or an embalmer, many materials are used to fill these wounds, holes, if you have a bullet hole, any kind of open wound. I mean, there's stuff in cotton in there, wax, different materials to just silicone, to try to fix these wounds, right? To prepare so that they can have an open casket. There's special mortuary makeup, that's used to recreate your loved one's features, that type of thing. So regardless of who did what, there are no organs available to re-examine during the second autopsy. So again, we don't know who dropped the ball. If the organs didn't come to the funeral home or the funeral home, didn't get, we don't know.
Now, short of toxicology, a sample for that purpose, I would wonder how much information you could truly get from the organs after they'd been removed, bagged, handled. But maybe you can, just maybe you could see some types of trauma on the organs or something. Might be able to figure that out. But to me, I have to wonder how much information you could truly get from a bag of organs after they've been removed, short of, again, a sample for like a toxicology report or some test.
However, these organs were x-rayed and photographed and made into slides. So they did have the slides available to review of Kendrick's organs. Harrington Funeral Home provided the Johnsons with a no-cost service. Like, they volunteered to take care of this funeral. It is possible that someone within the funeral home discarded the items or didn't follow the chain of custody. Again, that's a possibility. maybe they didn't consider the clothing or the organs were important. I mean, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. And at the end of the day, we don't know the truth. We have both parties making these conflicting statements about who did what. And unfortunately, human mistakes happen. And it isn't always malicious or intentional. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect.
But at the same time, if someone had some kind of motivation, it could be malicious. I mean, it's one of these situations where you'll truly never know.
Right. Another questionable issue with this case, and I understand why the family has doubts, is the security footage from Lowndes High School. Now, I'm not sure if all of the cameras had motion sensors, but many of them did. And due to this, the cameras kind of click on and record only when there is activity, like, for example, when someone enters the gymnasium.
Okay, so the entrance to the gymnasium is going to always be caught on camera.
Yes.
Whoever's entering and
right.
leaving. Okay.
As long as there is movement in front of the camera, it records. So also, it has been pointed out that these cameras didn't seem to sync up with each other, and that kind of made the timestamps wonky.
So they haven't been calibrated as far as the time that they're individual? That's odd.
Well, the cameras are part of a professional system. I mean, it's not like the school ordered these cameras from Amazon for like $10 and installed them. You know what I mean?
No, but if they have separate internal clocks and the clocks get off, that's just the nature of clocks.
Well, depending on how long these cameras have been in use.
Right. And if they're not calibrated and synced up as part of some kind of service plan or, over time, then that can happen. And that doesn't mean someone's changing anything. That's just the nature of electronics.
Look, these schools can barely afford to provide paper towels.
Right.
And textbooks.
Which I don't understand.
So I don't know if they're going to have this top-notch security system that's calibrated and, upgraded like every couple of months, right?
Well,
and maintained
that's
properly.
What I never understood. And just a quick sidebar, and this is the issue of tying funding to local property taxes. These are how you end up with these schools in poor areas being underfunded and under-resourced compared to schools in nicer, more affluent areas. Because your monies are based on, if they're tied to property values and property taxes that are brought in off those values, it's going to create a natural imbalance between the richer area and the poorer area.
But even so, cameras can be glitchy, right? I mean, we know that electronics can be glitchy, and especially over the course of some years. So I'm not sure how long this particular security system had been installed at this school with these cameras, but if it's been a decade
or more,
then they're probably not the best 4K, top of the line technology. We see a lot of this camera footage on the news when there's a school shooting or something, and oftentimes it's grainy, it's kind of crappy, and you're like, how in 2025 do you have this shitty camera footage? But that's what happens.
Well, if a system of any size, I think people often don't realize the cost involved in upgrading, right? I was in a $1 billion paper mill, and we were still running XP was our operating system. I mean, do you even remember when the XP was out?
Gosh.
And then we upgraded. It was literally to whatever XP Pro that was after XP. But when we upgraded, it was in the 20 teens. And so I'm like, why didn't you upgrade to the most modern, just 10 systems past that? But it comes down to cost and the incompatibility of the rest of the system with that operating system. So you have to sometimes still use antiquated. It's just cost and problems as far as internally interacting with each other systems.
Look, I worked at a job in 2011, and I still had Netscape as an internet browser on my computer.
Nice.
And it barely could connect to the internet.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
But no, there are complications that sometimes I think people don't think about.
Right.
You don't. Why don't you just do this? Well, it won't work with this system or that system. And then, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So again, cameras, timestamps, kind of wonky. Now, the GBI requested the camera footage. And from my understanding, there were 36 cameras filming on campus on January 10th and into January 11th. That's a lot of hours of footage. So For a day, that totals 36 cameras, 24 hours of footage. That's 864 hours. And if you're coming through 2 days of footage, that's over 1900 hours of surveillance footage.
Right.
Right? That's a lot to look through.
Just in the 2 days, yes.
People have made claims that there is missing footage. But if law enforcement asked for that footage and some of it was missing, then that's an issue with the school, right?
Yeah. Well, that would be the ones who control the footage, right?
Right. So this leads to a legal request, and a judge ordered that some of that footage be released, but the problem lies within the timestamps again. Some still shots were taken from the footage released by the sheriff's office that shows timestamps, but the actual video footage had no timestamps. With our security cameras, there's a timestamp on the screen when I'm viewing it. And when I go back to the cloud, it's timestamped on the video.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It's like you figure it goes with it.
But that's 2025 camera technology.
Yeah.
And we're talking 2013. So I'm wondering if the footage, once downloaded to a server or a drive, like wherever this is downloaded, doesn't maybe remove the timestamp from the video. Like maybe it just shows up on the screen while it's being recorded, but maybe not necessarily on the video itself. Like I'm not really sure about that. I'm just speculating.
Right. I have no idea how that works.
And then I'm wondering about the photos that were released. Like, was that somehow taken from the video, or was it like someone took a picture of it from the screen and then you get the timestamp? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, I see what you're saying.
It's kind of hard for me. I'm not super tech savvy, so it's kind of hard for me to break it down. So I'm hoping that I'm not like confusing people.
No, maybe someone else can explain that better, but I do find that odd because I feel like the timestamp's an important part of security footage.
Right.
And I feel like it would be embedded and integrated.
Well, you would think, yeah.
At all steps, but yeah.
Then there are videos of people that seemingly kind of appear and then disappear from shots. Then they sort of like, they'll appear, they'll disappear, and then they sort of magically appear again. It's like this is some kind of glitch, but others say it shows that the video footage was edited intentionally.
I mean, you can talk about frames per second.
But it's motion sensor, right?
Yeah, who knows?
There could be delays. And from what I learned with research, CNN was very interested in this case, Dylan, and they sent out a FOIA request and pressed forward with a suit to get this video footage. So once they obtain the video footage, they hire a professional forensic analyst to sort through, I think, 300 hours of video.
So this being a tax-funded public institution, therefore you should be able to access the information.
Freedom of Information.
Freedom of Information Act. Yes.
Now, the analyst did find some discrepancies in the footage, like blurriness or what might be described as kind of like shakiness, like the glitch, when a glitch happens. There were also missing timestamps, but the analyst said it was most likely due to poorly functioning motion sensors. It could also be unfocused or blurry because the cameras themselves were older. There could be dirty lenses. And this is coming from someone who went to photography school and was a photojournalist. I know a little bit about cameras, and I can tell you that dust is a major problem for camera lenses. So dust on cameras can cause what they call softness or flares. Right.
Reflecting the light.
Yeah, it can reduce contrast. The zoom and focus mechanisms can get messed up if the dust is like more than normal. But most photographers and videographers, they're using this equipment all the time. So they go to great lengths to make sure their lenses are properly maintained and cleaned. No one was cleaning these lenses. I'm just saying.
No, and they're likely up high, hard to reach, which is where typically all cameras are placed, especially around a bunch of rambunctious students. You don't want them to be able to access them or touch them.
Just think about how damn dusty your house is.
No,
I mean, I earlier pointed out our ceiling fan, and I clean a lot. Like I'm pretty much a clean freak, right? But our ceiling fans get dusty as hell, even when you wipe them down. You
Right.
look back up there in like 2 months and there's dust is back on the damn ceiling fan, right? So you think about a security camera in a school that's in a hallway
Up in a
where a
corner.
door opens and closes constantly and you're getting that dust in and out. And that camera's been up there for 8 years. Now, do you think anybody wipes that camera down or
Li-
dusts it?
No, likely not.
Yeah, right? So I'm just pointing to that fact. Now, the analysts could not determine if the files had been tampered with. So with people appearing and disappearing, we don't know if that is somebody has edited this footage. But it also could be some kind of malfunction, a glitch, or, again, it could be something more sinister. It was determined there was about an hour of missing footage from all 4 cameras that seem to be like in this gymnasium area. But I don't know if they mean like an hour total is missing from the, like one camera, like someone has taken the camera and they've taken the footage and,
Right, just cut it
removed
out.
it.
Yes.
But it kind of seems like it's missing from all 4 cameras. Like 25 minutes might be missing from this one. Camera 1, camera 2 might have like 15 minutes of missing footage. Camera 3 has like, 5 minutes of missing footage. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's very odd.
Then that sounds like maybe the system is outdated or needs some kind of maintenance.
Well,
to
yeah.
me.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I don't understand if you're carving out a chunk of time, you're going to have to get that same chunk of time from every camera, right? Or I guess
Right.
maybe only some of the camera angles picked up, whatever. But yeah, I mean, that does sound like a system that's not operating efficiently.
Look, anytime you take some evidence, anything, a story, you can find a way to sway it one way or another, right? Like a persuasive argument.
Well, yeah, unless it's perfect. I mean, which doesn't exist.
Right. Okay, so back to our story. The Johnsons did not view this footage in the days after Kendrick's death, and it would have been available to them, but from my understanding is like they didn't ask to see any of this video footage.
I'm kind of surprised on that. That would be one of my first thoughts.
By 2014, this case is really heating up, Dylan. The Johnsons and their attorney are putting a lot of pressure on law enforcement, the justice system, and that's when the family starts naming people they believe are responsible for Kendrick's death. So now we're not just making like allegations, kind of anonymous allegations of, well, we know it was a student who did this, but now they're actually pointing fingers, and they name brothers Brian and Brandon Bell.
I remember when this happened.
Okay, so the Johnsons have their own theory. The Bell brothers, they believe, had a female lure Kendrick to the gym where they proceeded to kill him and stuff his body into this mat. They also claim that the Bell's father was involved in a massive cover-up. And you might ask, like, well, why is the father brought into these allegations? Well, Dylan, he was an FBI agent.
Oh. Well, now, is there video evidence of him coming into the gym? I know that the angles kind of suck in this gym, which, again, this is not... It's a school. It's not a prison. It's not high security.
There is no video evidence of this.
So, but the entrance is covered.
Right.
So there should be...
Dylan, I just need you to hold tight.
Or is that part of the missing footage?
Hold on tight to your seat, bud. Buckle up. Buckle up.
There should be video of those 2 brothers going into the gym and the girl.
Hear me out. Okay? I got tea for you, bud. So the Johnsons and their attorneys file this lawsuit, and they name like 30 defendants that they claim were involved or complicit. They also sued Lowndes High School in 2014, along with the superintendent, for wrongful death of their son. And in this lawsuit, the Johnsons allege there was a long history of Kendrick being targeted by, quote, a white student. There was some kind of dispute between one of the Bell brothers and Kendrick, but some sources have actually said that one of the Bell brothers and Kendrick were kind of buddies.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the Johnsons deny this, and they state they have never heard their son saying that the Bell brother is his friend. Like, never. The Johnsons imply that this incident with this white student happened just before Kendrick's death. But, Dylan, it was actually 18 months earlier in 2011. So do you remember I told you at the beginning of the episode that there was a conflict on a school bus?
Right.
Okay. So that happened 18 months before Kendrick's death. That was in 2011. The boys were freshmen and they were playing on the football team together. This is the Bell brothers. I believe I think Brendan might be the younger or the older one.
They were on the football team with Kendrick?
Yeah.
I thought Kendrick wasn't an athlete. According to our...
Oh, well, at the time he wasn't playing a sport, according to our person who really knows this case inside and out.
Right.
So the boys were freshmen and playing on the football team together. This was the thing I described in the beginning where they were riding home on the school bus post-game. Brian and Kendrick were jokingly kind of trading barbs. And from what I understand, it was your mama jokes.
Oh.
Now, I don't know 100% if that's true because I've seen a lot of other things on Reddit boards that suggest it was something else, like kind of crazy.
Well, I hope it was your mama
like somebody
jokes.
peed on somebody. I don't know. But I saw a source that it was like, they're kind of going back and forth.
They're cracking on each other.
Yes, which is not uncommon among friends. I crack on you all the time.
It's fun.
We're back and forth with each other sometimes.
You're giving each other hell.
Like, when I tell you all day that you smell like poop.
Well, now you take it too far.
No, I don't.
You do it to the point where I'm like, do I smell like poop? What the hell, dude?
I'm going to make a t-shirt that's like, have you gaslighted your husband today? Now, I don't know if someone took it too far or whatever, but these two ended up in a fight.
Which can happen.
And we've also heard it was over a girl. That this was over a girl that supposedly Kendrick was seeing.
Okay.
So I don't know if they started joking, it went too far, then something with the girlfriend came out. I mean, again, it's kind of the sources are saying different things.
Now, I've seen grown men get in their feelings when you're just cracking on each other like this. So that certainly can happen amongst young people.
Right, and I've seen that happen. I mean, people start messing around, and then it kind of escalates and gets out of hand, and then somebody gets mad and pissed off, and then it turns into a fight. Now, I've seen this with, siblings, for example.
Yeah, I'd be like, that's why your mama don't like you because you ugly. And I'd be like, oh, come on now.
My mama's your mama, too. Okay, so there are these two teams on this bus when the fight breaks out, and I'm thinking it's probably like the JV and the varsity team. That's what makes sense to me, right? So when they arrive back at the high school, Brian, along with his older brother, who's a junior, also played football. So they get back to the school. This fight's been broken up. Things at this point have just kind of settled down, whatever. The Bell brothers are picked up by their parents and taken home, right? Well, KJ was taken home by the school resource officer. Kenneth Johnson says, quote, white kids get to go home with their parents and the black kid is put into a police car.
Well, I do wonder why there was a difference there. Now,
I have an answer for you.
Was there anybody there to pick Kendrick up?
Hold on. Obviously, if both students are involved, they should be treated the same way, right?
Of course.
I mean, absolutely. So, Kendrick shouldn't be the only kid targeted or punished for this fight.
Agreed.
You're both involved.
Yes.
You both have accountability here. So I understand why the Johnsons would have issue with that. But here's the thing, Dylan. When Kenneth Johnson tells the story, he makes it seem as if this, just happened, right before Kendrick died, and that he's, he's telling the truth.
So he's actually pointing to this event, but acting like it happened right before his son passed away.
Not 11 months before.
Well, that is...
Which is misleading.
11 months is a long time.
When you're misleading with facts, then you sway people to... again, you can misconstrue information and paint a picture one way or another. You can swing, how people... It's all in how you present the facts to people, right?
Well, no, dude, if I heard a story, hey, this happened 11 months ago, and then something happened to him, I'd be like, I wonder. Now, if I heard a story that this just happened, this altercation between students, and then one is found deceased inside of a map, I'd be like, well, hold on a second. You certainly need to talk to them other students.
Right, and it's kind of laid out in this lawsuit it just happened, but in fact it happened 18 months earlier. And he is telling the truth. KJ was brought home by a school resource officer who works at the school. And it wasn't like the police were called and KJ was targeted. This is a school employee, right? This is a person who's at the school at the time. If Kenneth says, quote, I was waiting at the school to pick up my child and they denied me access, unquote, then that's one thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's another for the school to arrange a ride for KJ possibly given the circumstances, right? I mean, he's heated and they're kind of just like, hey, bud, let's get you home, you know? Also, the school resource officer comes out and says to reporters, I considered myself a friend of the Johnson family. And guess what, Dylan? You were right. No one was waiting at the school to pick up KJ.
Okay.
So the Bell brothers leave. KJ is still there. And this resource officer, who considers himself a friend of the family, asks KJ, hey, do you need a ride? I see that your parents aren't here and you're just standing here waiting around.
And it sounds like he accepted the ride.
Yeah.
Not in custody.
It was not a punishment. It was not in custody. It was simply to help out a kid that he knew needed a ride home.
Which is the job of a resource officer. Their number one job in my book, when I've seen good resource officers, is to get to know the kids, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, all we see is videos of them going, these assholes, these maniacs roughing kids up and, throwing them around and shit. Those are people who should not be in that position. They shouldn't be in any law enforcement position, honestly.
I've seen the resource officer at my daughter's school going around like fist bumping.
Yeah, they all
give me
love
knuckles.
them. Yeah, they talk to them. That's what I typically have seen. Is they all know the resource officer's name. He stops and speaks. He knows their names. He knows your kids' names.
And I've actually, working as a reporter, saw a case where some things happened to a group of students, and it was off campus. It was like at a party or whatever. Something kind of bad went down, and when the students came back to school, one of the attendees of this party felt comfortable enough to trust this officer to know that's who she could go to tell what had happened.
That's because he built that trust up.
And it blew open a big case that I covered.
Right. And that's the trust.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
So, again, like you said, and it sounds like this is a decent officer, right? Like, he knows this kid. He's offering him a ride, doesn't want him, standing out after dark alone.
Well, it could have nothing to do with the altercation on the bus. It could just be, hey, you want a ride? So you don't have to wait?
Here's my issue with the Johnson family, Dylan. And who am I, right? I'm just some random person. But I'll preface this by saying I know they are grieving the loss of their son. And that has got to be the most pain.
Unimaginable.
But they are taking facts and kind of bending them to fit a narrative. And maybe that's the way they're viewing it, kind of through this lens of having a very broken heart, right? But some of this stuff isn't really adding up. So it makes me question the true motives here. Is it about getting to the bottom of their son's death, or is it more about like pushing forward with a lawsuit? Because they're asking for lots of money, like $100 million.
Okay, that's a crazy number, and I do know why people throw crazy numbers out like that.
That's a lot of money, and I'm just wondering if $100 million is enough to ease the pain and suffering of losing your child.
Well, I wonder where you come up with a number like $100 million. And obviously, I think that people sue for these insane amounts because you hope for a settlement outside of court to make it all go away,
right,
at a much lower number. But if you set the number so high, hey, $5 million's a lot better than $100 million, right? $1 million's way better than $100 million.
Now, once these boys, once their name starts flying around, the sheriff comes out and announces that Brandon and Brian Bell weren't suspects at all. So Brandon Bell wasn't even on school grounds at the time of Kendrick's death.
Okay.
He was gone with the wrestling team. There are 25 members on the team. I'd say that's a pretty solid alibi.
He's accounted for by coaches and other students.
And 25 team members, 24 team members.
And other people wherever they went and wrestled at, a whole nother school. Okay.
So 24 team members, because he's one of them. So that makes 24 team members, a coach, who are like, okay, we saw him. He was at a tournament that day. Brian Bell had a fourth period class during the time that they are placing, like, this is around the time we think Kendrick died.
Because they saw him go into the gym and never come out.
Yes. He was in a fourth period class during this time in which 20 students and a teacher placed him in the classroom. And they do not report that he left any time during this class. Now, this seems impossible that either Bell brother could enter or exit the gym at the time of Kendrick's death. Because of these alibis, Sheriff Prine never considered them suspects. Yet the Johnsons refuted this evidence and continued pushing this narrative that the Bell brothers killed their son. They even made a video that circulated accusing the Bell brothers, and it made the rounds on social media. The Johnsons insisted the brothers had refused to cooperate with authorities, and they said the wrestling bus had not left campus until 4 p.m. Well, there's an explanation for that, Dylan. There had been a request filled out in advance for this tournament, probably like months in advance, like when the wrestling team gets their schedule.
Right.
They, so you have to go fill out a slip to reserve a bus.
You need a bus. You need it to be fueled. They need to know where it's going.
So this tournament slip that was filled out like weeks or months before the tournament stated they needed to borrow this bus at 4 p.m.
Okay.
On the slip. But the school's attorney showed a log stating that the wrestling bus had left campus between 11:32 a.m. and 12:02 p.m. This was during a first lunch period, is when the bus left, and the bus traveled 150 miles. Cell phone records indicate the coach and the team were in Cordell, Georgia at 1:53 p.m.
Okay. So the bus was gone.
The bus was gone.
Even though the log
one-
says it
the
was
one
requested for 4 p.m.
The one Brendan Bell was gone, while the other Bell brother was in class. I'm sorry, but it seems really far-fetched to me. There is clear evidence here that exonerates the Bell brothers completely. Right?
Well, yeah, and the camera just happened to catch Kendrick going into the gym by himself. Not saying he couldn't have been texted by somebody to come to the gym, but those other people never went in or out of the gym at that time.
Not according to witnesses.
Not according to witnesses and what video evidence we do have.
Right.
Okay.
But the Johnsons are still insisting that the Bell brothers are responsible for murdering their son. And again, it's this massive cover-up involving potentially hundreds of people, including 24 team members, a coach, everybody at this tournament.
And a school.
The 20 kids in the classroom, the teacher. Yes. Kendrick was taking a weight training class, so he did have a reason to be in the gym. So this idea of like a siren kind of luring him to his death doesn't exactly fit, because it's not like he had no reason to go to the gym. Like if he had no reason to go to the gym,
like he's in another period, should be leaving and going to another class, but instead he goes to the gym, that would make more sense.
I might believe it if I was like, well, why would he be going to the gym?
Or
like if you told me he was in the wood shop, but he does not take a wood shop class, like why would he be in the wood shop, right? So
But he had a
reason to be in the
weight
gym.
training class, and he needed to change.
He needed to probably go get these shoes. Whatever.
That was known to be shared with someone else, and students were known to store various items in or around these mats.
Yes.
But I guess they may be in on it too, Heather.
And also, there is no footage of any female student going into the gym ahead of Kendrick or like right after him.
Or either Bell brother.
No.
Because the one was not even on the premises and the other one was accounted for in class.
Yes. The Johnsons also filed a complaint against the funeral home operator. The state of Georgia found that the funeral home did not use, quote, best practices. There was other material more suitable to fill KJ's body in place of those newspapers, but the state found no wrongdoing at this funeral home. The funeral home did not lose its license or anything like that, but the Johnsons did file a lawsuit against the funeral home, and I did not find any information about where that went.
What are they suing them for?
The newspapers?
Okay.
And maybe the org. I mean, I'm not.
Okay. I'm just. They seem litigious. This family seems to be suing everyone in sight, and I honestly don't know how. I don't know. I don't understand.
I guess people handle grief differently.
And that could be part of it.
Ebony Magazine published an article in 2014, kind of like without naming the two brothers as the murderers, but they were like, hey, these 2 students were involved and were suspects in this murder.
They were not suspects, right?
Well, we know the sheriff has said they were never suspects.
Right.
But this Ebony magazine publishes an article saying there are 2 students who are suspects, and they don't name the Bell brothers, but again, they give enough information and description that it was pretty easy to conclude who these students were, especially given the fact
the family.
The Johnsons have posted their names and information on social media.
Okay, I don't understand why they would do that. That seems like that does not the basic rules of journalism. That doesn't seem to be fair or legitimate on their part. See, this is what I'm talking about right here.
Well, you, as a journalist, must vet
to a reasonable degree.
You have to vet your sources and the information they're providing and make sure that you're not publishing lies.
Now, I know that you also have you're compelled to protect your sources, but I do find it funny that many stories across the spectrum on many different things nowadays, especially very important issues in our country, are anonymous sources.
Well, you have to prove in order to like sue a publication like that there was malice.
Right.
There's a movie, it's an old Paul Newman movie called Without Malice. I highly recommend folks watch that. It's a pretty interesting movie. But yeah, when you go to sue like a newspaper or something or a publication, I mean, you know, it can be kind of difficult because you have to prove some element of malice sometimes.
Not only incompetence, but malice.
Well, a $5 million lawsuit was brought on by the family of these boys, meaning the Bell brothers, the Bell family, who say they were not considered suspects ever and that they had been harassed since the release of these articles. They'd been targeted and harassed, like the whole family, mom, dad, the boys. So in 2015, a lawsuit is filed against 38 people. And in November of that year, the DOJ files a motion in the civil case. They want to stay this lawsuit. A federal investigation had been launched into Kendrick's case, and this evidence presented in the lawsuit, they say, could hamper their federal investigation.
Oh.
Okay. So the Johnsons end up dropping this suit, and in turn, they were sued for $800,000 in attorney fees and $1 million in defamation charges or damages.
From who?
From, like, all the people who were...
All the people they had sued?
Yeah, and, like, the Bell family and... Yeah.
Okay.
From what I understand, that may not be, I mean, from what I understand, sometimes when I'm researching, newspaper articles give you some info, but not all the info. But from my understanding, it's either like it was some people named in the lawsuit, and I think it was like the Bell family.
Okay.
Now, after a federal investigation, the Department of Justice announced they would not be filing any criminal charges in Kendrick's case. They stated, now this is the Department of Justice, this is the federal government, this isn't the state government, county government, we're talking to the feds, stated there was insufficient evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that someone or a group of people violated KJ's civil rights or committed any crime against KJ, aka homicide.
Okay.
A judge named Richard Porter ordered the Johnson family to pay, legal fees of the defendants, and also accused them of fabricating evidence to support their claims. They end up having to pay $292,000 in legal fees.
Damn.
The Johnson family.
Okay.
Then the Johnsons requested their son's body be exhumed a second time for a third autopsy in 2018. They want another autopsy, another doctor. Okay, so in 2021, a new sheriff, Ashley Polk, is, usually in the South, I don't know how it works in other places, but you vote a sheriff in.
Yeah.
The sheriff.
Yeah, it's voted in by the local
Yeah, so a
constituents.
sheriff is usually elected. And so a new sheriff comes to town, we like when a new sheriff comes to town, right?
Right.
Ashley Polk offers $500,000 for anyone bringing any information that will lead to the conviction of Kendrick Johnson's murder. Whoever did this, you bring them to me, we convict them, I'm going to give you $500,000. And it's my understanding this was like Paulk's personal money.
Damn.
This was not county money. He's saying, I'm going to give you this out of my personal account if you can prove somebody murdered Kendrick Johnson.
Wow.
He reopens the case. He looks into this case for 13 months before closing it again in 2022.
Okay.
Sheriff Paulk concluded there was no cover-up, no homicide, and that it was simply a bizarre accident. He also stated that the Bell brothers are not suspects. Again.
So this is the third investigation. You had the original investigation. You had an investigation by the federal government and the Department of Justice. And now you have a new sheriff reopening the case.
Yes.
Investigating for over a year.
Yes.
And I know the reason he did, the incoming sheriff, is because it's obviously still a very big deal there in that area, right? Still tensions. People still talk about it, which I think was a very noble thing, a way of him to go about it. I'll put up my own money. Obviously, if someone did do something horrible to Kendrick, we want to bring them to justice. And then now he's closed this third investigation, and basically the same findings as the original two investigations.
Yes.
By other local authorities and the federal government.
Yes.
Okay.
Brian Bell, a 3-star linebacker, was offered a football scholarship to Florida State in 2015. So we're kind of backtracking a little bit here. When the Johnsons filed their lawsuit naming him in their son's wrongful death, the scholarship was rescinded.
Wow.
Now, during the federal investigation, the brothers did receive letters letting them know they were the targets of a grand jury investigation. But as the case loomed over this young man, he lost an opportunity to play football at Florida State. But he did go on to play football at another college.
Okay. But he was a 3-star recruit getting to go to Florida State.
But you can see, well,
which is
he
the
had,
big stage.
Well, it sounds like he had multiple colleges recruiting him and offering him a ride or whatever. Florida State happened to be one of those, and they rescinded this scholarship simply because this case was like looming over him. So I think you have to look at that and see that he's not a suspect. He's been cleared by the sheriff, and then he'll later be cleared by the feds.
And the new
But
sheriff.
how this accusation deeply impacted his life.
Right.
And it seems like it's a false accusation.
But that impact is still there.
But the power of lies and... I mean, because simply, if you accuse somebody of something they didn't do, that's a lie, right?
Well, yeah.
I find that
wrong.
sad for this young man.
Well, it's wrong, and that's not the type of opportunity you get to have again.
And I have to say, I listened to a couple of other podcasts covering this case, and there was a podcast that's quite big, actually. And they were like celebrating that he lost his scholarship. Like, good.
Really?
Yeah. And I just was like, okay. I found that to be strange.
So don't they have to be looking at the same pot of information that you are for the most part?
Well, that's the thing, Dylan, is that sometimes I think people look at information and maybe process it differently.
Well, and I got to say, it's one of the things I do think that you bring to the table, and I do love about your stories, is I think you dig very deep, even when it's not a super, super deep dive. I think your workflow, you go about things in a certain way, and you don't just listen to another pod and jot down some details.
Well, I think it's easy to react emotionally to this case, because I will say, when I first heard of this death, and it was making the rounds, and it became a huge news story. CNN's covering it. It's national news. It's all over social media. My first instinct was, what the hell's going on in Georgia?
That was my first thought as well.
Right?
Yeah.
And I had a very emotional reaction, just like I had a very emotional reaction when I watched officers leaning on George Floyd.
Right.
And when I saw officers putting Freddie Gray in a chokehold.
Yeah.
I had a very visceral emotional reaction to that. Just like I had a visceral emotional reaction to seeing somebody put a bullet through Charlie Kirk's neck. Right?
Exactly.
It's just, my humanity, my soul, when I see something like that and it seems just violent,
It's
and,
wrong.
and whatever, I mean, it hurts me in my soul, and I get emotional. And I think a lot of people get really emotional and let their emotions take over, and then believe what they're being told, and they're reacting emotionally, but they're not putting the emotions aside to look at the facts and the evidence. And so I think that's where you get this people still saying this was a homicide. Look at the evidence. It says it was, even though we have discussed these boys were not suspects. They've been cleared. They had alibis.
Well, we literally live in an age of information, or an age of the way information is disseminated. When people will argue with you about a headline they saw, okay? Now, this has happened to me more than once. They will argue with you about, and they're just going on, they saw the headline. Oh my God, this is my point of view. You know, you're so wrong. You can literally click on that headline and actually open the article and read the article, and the information buried in the article will actually discredit the very headline that the article has at the top. I mean, and it blows me away that you formed this strong opinion, a strong emotional opinion off of a headline, and you didn't even read the fucking article, dude. You didn't even read the article under it.
Media literacy is absent in this country. We really need to teach media literacy to people.
Well, we needed, like you've shown me, a simple cross-reference from multiple sources on things oftentimes will let you know very quickly whether or not that has some merit.
But see, again, I think that's where you have to make a distinction between your emotional reaction and your logic.
Right.
Right? And be reasonable. And sometimes you have to put your emotions aside, your knee-jerk reaction aside, and actually look into what's happening, the evidence that's being presented. I mean, honestly, nowadays, and I know we're on a tangent here, and we've probably been on a tangent a little bit during this episode, but I could show somebody a shirt and say, look, the shirt is red, and somebody out there is going to argue with me that, no, that shirt is not red.
Right.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
You can present facts, but somebody's going to argue that it's still not the truth.
Well, just like,
or it's still not true.
If you saw that image, which thank goodness I didn't see that image of this poor young man.
It's horrific.
If you see that image, you go, "What the fuck? Oh my God, who did this to as a citizen?"
That's how I felt
right
when I first knew about this case.
But if you know anything and you see how the remains were found, where they were found, the state they were in, the time they were there, what happens after death, when you start thinking about all those things, death is, what's so sad about it is how, and I think this is what really we struggle with as a society, especially here in America. I think many other places in the world, they have a better understanding and honestly a better relationship with death than we do in this country. It reminds us very quickly that we are just, it brings in the biological factor.
Well, the more that we all
the
are
mortality,
facing mortality.
As soon as you die, things start happening. A lot of stuff starts happening in your body, and there's no way around it, and everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
It happens at different rates in different ways for different reasons. And I think a lot of people don't think about that in a situation like that when we're already in almost a racially charged climate because of all the things, some of it true, some of it not, that have happened in this country in the last 10 years, especially. And I think that people are bad to jump to an emotional conclusion like you were pointing out. And I think that's dangerous, especially
nowadays. And look, I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
And so are you,
oh,
right?
Yeah.
We always, we want the truth.
Right.
Right? And sometimes your narrative does not sound like, nope. But we've become a society that we want to believe everything is a lie or conspiracy or propaganda or a cover-up.
Right.
Like sometimes
it just is what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly.
Yes. And this is sad.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're fine. This young man's dead. And think about it.
Well, see, at the end of the day, that's the part we're missing from, I think, all of this is Kendrick was he was a human being. He had hopes and dreams and feelings. He loved people. He wanted to play football professionally. I mean, he had these dreams and everything, and his life has been snuffed out. And in all of this, it seems like he's being lost.
Yeah, because he was a handsome young man.
Yeah.
Had the world in front of him. And I think about if it wasn't this horrible beating and murder, which would be fucking terrible, and that anyone who would even think about that should be held accountable. I think if it was what they say it is, a tragic accident, I think about him slipping, falling into this tight, confined space and having minutes at least of thinking about, after first struggling, how he can't
kind of coming to the
that
realization
he can't get out.
Yeah.
The weird predicament he's in,
Frightening.
that no one can hear him, no one's going to come help him, and just slowly fading out from whatever physiological thing that's happening to him, asphyxiation or whatever. And that really makes me sad, thinking about that poor young man having time to have those thoughts. And that rips my heart out.
There it is, Dylan. Okay, so we have a little more to get through here. In 2017, a sworn deposition testimony given by Kenneth Johnson. Now, this is a sworn testimony. He admits he has no evidence to back up any of the claims that he had made in the lawsuit.
Okay.
So he does not have any evidence to back up any of these claims. I mean, he's admitting this.
Well, that's a problem.
A witness came forward in August of 2018, on August 6th of 2018. A 27-year-old man named Ryan Anthony Domek Hernandez signed an affidavit stating he had been at Brandon Bell's Jacksonville apartment in April of 2016. During this time, Brandon made a confession that he had killed Kendrick Johnson. Brian, now this is the confession according to this guy.
Okay.
Ryan Anthony Domek Hernandez. The confession is this. Brandon, and a friend of theirs named Ryan Hall had argued with KJ in the school's gym. During a roid rage, Brian hit Kendrick with a dumbbell in the neck, which explains the blunt force trauma. Then their father, Rick Bell, contacted the sheriff's office and coroner to keep it quiet. Ryan Hall was silenced, and an unnamed FBI agent helped alter the surveillance footage. KJ's organs were removed to hide the time of death, and the autopsy was falsified. Now, that's supposedly what was in this confession. But none of these claims were backed up with any kind of hard evidence, Dylan. Now, Brandon Bell, here's what we do know. Brandon Bell was not living in Jacksonville, Florida in April of 2016.
Okay.
He was a student at Valdosta State University and living in Valdosta, Georgia at the time. Domek Hernandez was arrested by Valdosta police in August of 2018. So around the same time he's got this confession, is also, he's gets in trouble. The Johnsons took to social media to say that he was being jailed on bogus charges in an effort to silence his statements. Yet the police reports tell a different story. A woman reported that Domek Hernandez came to her bathroom window while she was in the bathroom at her home on Eager Road and punched through the glass in an attempt to enter the home. Later, Domek Hernandez walked into an emergency room wearing no shirt. He had a bloody right hand and a belt wrapped around his right forearm, like a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. He tried to register at the emergency room as a John Doe, but there was already like a be on the lookout because, of course, the woman had reported this trespassing incident.
Right. They're going to see the blood. They're going to be like, this guy might need medical attention.
So, yeah, usually there's a cop at the emergency room.
or security.
Right.
Direct,
so anyway, this guy, he's picked up on this trespassing incident, and he also had a criminal record. I mean, he's got multiple run-ins with law enforcement.
Well, Heather, all that could be the part of the cover-up.
I mean, it could be.
Look, and I do see that, you know, the Bell brothers' dad was FBI,
Yes.
retired or active, or do we
I
know?
believe he was active at the time.
Okay, and so that right there is this is how the cover-up's being done, right? You have someone who's connected to an agency that is very powerful. Okay,
Okay.
I get that. But my problem is what you said earlier about the size and the scope of this cover-up. And you're not going to run across one person who's like, fuck you, I'm not doing that. That's unethical. That's wrong. And you're putting my whole career on the line, my freedom on the line. If this comes out, I'm not going to be part of your cover-up. I'm going to tell someone else above you or outside of you about this. I'm not going to be part of that. And all this group of people and all these different levels of government, levels of authority, you didn't run across one person who's like, no, there's no way I'm going to be part of that. You're assuming.
From the bottom up.
You're
from
assuming.
County, from state
Yes.
to federal.
You're assuming that all these people are willing to be a part of this. And I'm sorry, I don't think I could find 10 people that would be willing to do that I know of. They're willing to do that. And I'm sorry, an active FBI agent
You're probably not even going to get your wife to help you with a cover-up.
does not
You know
have
what I'm saying?
the power to exert the kind of influence and threats it would take to do this, man. It's just not possible. I'm sorry, it's not. It's ridiculous. It really is. I mean, it is.
Finding Kendrick Johnson was a documentary released in 2021, and the documentary asserts that Kendrick's death was no accident and claims to show new evidence proving he was murdered. I've not watched this documentary, but the Bell family filed a libel lawsuit against Jason Pollock, the director. The Johnsons filed another lawsuit. They want the death certificate amended from accidental, saying like that he did not die of an accident, so they want that taken off the death certificate.
Okay.
Because they say that it's been scientifically disproven that it was not an accident.
Oh.
In this lawsuit, they claim that Dr. Marianne Kraft, the pathologist, quote, butchered their son to cover up evidence of blunt force trauma, and they are seeking a total of $12 million. Now, a lower court judge ruled to dismiss it, but the U.S. Supreme Court of Appeals 11th District said the verdict should be reviewed. In the original lawsuit, the Johnsons filed a complaint asking that the judge, Lee Martin May, be recused from the case due to bias and prejudice. May denied the motion and dismissed the suit. So the federal court says she was right not to recuse herself because there was no proof of abuse. But they will be given another chance to argue their lawsuit. I mean, the saga is just never ending, Dylan. And at this point, just let the young man rest in peace.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this legal action is not honoring his memory at all. And now, looking back, 12 years later, these lawsuits, these claims, we have Dad admitting in a deposition, I don't have any evidence. This is just how I feel.
Right.
I mean, at that point, it's like, okay, well, I just made this stuff up.
So even
I just feel like the family just looks greedy at this point. Like you're just trying to get some money out of it. Like you're trying to exploit your son's death. And maybe that sounds harsh, and I'm sure there's somebody out there who is very strongly disagreeing with me and probably thinks I'm terrible for saying that. And, I'm not trying to offend anybody. But this is just me looking at these years of multiple lawsuits, demanding, these very large sums of money. And at the end of the day, money's not going to bring your son back. And I don't see how that's going to really help your grief.
No, and I don't know if they think these large sums of money will help get their point across or help getting someone into action. But I mean, it's been investigated multiple times. It's been investigated from, the lowest authority to the highest authority. You have a new sheriff coming in. Was he part of the cover up? I mean, he took a more than a year-long look at reopen the
offering
investigation.
up his own money.
Offered his own money for, but I guess you can do that if you're part of the cover. I mean, it's just at some point.
At what point does it end?
At one point, do you feel like this, my son's gone, it's terrible, we've lost him. And I'm not saying just let a murderer get away, but as a family, what point do you think maybe, just maybe, this truly was a tragic accident? I mean,
well, they just seem to want to get their hands on some money. And they're filing multiple lawsuits against multiple different people. They're trying, if it's not the funeral home, we can't get it from the funeral home. Then we can get it from the sheriff's office or
the Bell family.
It's at what point does it end? And also, you keep on keeping on, knowing damn well there is no evidence to back up anything that you're saying.
So even if what you're saying is true, there's no evidence.
Show some evidence.
Well,
Prove that you
have to have evidence.
I mean, you cannot just go around saying something happened when it didn't, and there's no evidence to back it up that way, and then just filing lawsuit after lawsuit that keeps getting thrown out of court.
And I have to say,
because you're producing, we've seen they've produced some false evidence, according to the judge.
Well, and
they've
the
been ordered
timelines.
to pay money for attorney fees. At what point do we just let Kendrick's memory, we let him rest in peace, and we just honor his memory and recognize that this is very likely a freak accident?
Right. And the only thing I guess they could even call evidence is their private autopsies paid for by them or their supporters or both or whatever. And honestly, I have issue. Oftentimes when people have an exhumation,
hire an expert witness,
it always typically tends to break and support whatever they think happened. And this is a person that you're paying directly. So that's not strong. That's not strong evidence at all, in my opinion. And that's the only thing that seemed to go their way during everything that you described. So yeah, I agree with you. Just let the young man, let him rest. Remember the good times. And I know you'll never fill that hole in your heart. I just know that you can't.
But $100 million might. Look, I know. I'm being an asshole.
Well, yeah, I know, because I could tell while you were researching this over the course of the last couple of weeks that it was kind of pissing you off.
Well, my opinion changed. I'm going to be honest. When I first started this case, I really thought okay, we're going to see racism. We were going to see a cover.
Yeah, that was both our expectations.
Extreme emotional reaction from the beginning that this was shady as fuck, right? But I can't say that now. And again, I don't know. I know I have listeners out there. I've had people say oh, I'm excited you're doing, I want to hear your perspective. I'm excited that you are, doing this case. I really think something sus is up with this. And everybody's entitled to think that way, feel that way, or whatever. But just based on the clear evidence, the large scale that it would have to take to cover up,
right.
I just don't believe that it was a homicide.
I don't either. Now I truly don't. I think it was a terrible freak accident. All right, Heather, thank you for this two-parter, and thanks for what you do with a story like this. I think you do a good job of taking a lot of information, bringing it to the listeners, bringing it to me, and really appreciate what you do.
Well, this has really impacted a lot of people, and when you make false allegations like that, just think about these young men, and let's say they're not involved at all. There are people out there who still think they had something to do with Kendrick's death.
For all their life, they will think that.
But now they have a stigma, and they have been, ostracized. They have been harassed. They've lost opportunities. It will forever be attached to their name. And that just seems really unfair if you're truly innocent.
It's horrible. It's a terrible thing. All right.
All right, so if you have a spooky story for us or just want to give us some feedback, you can always email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website, www.mountainmurderspodcast.com, and check out our merch store. You know, spooky season is upon us. Maybe you want to get a cute t-shirt, you want to get a little hat, or maybe you just need some new stickers for your laptop, your car.
You've got so many designs over there. I got a couple of spooky t-shirts on the way for myself, and I can't wait till they get here and see if they fit my big ass.
Well, I don't know if you're going to wear a t-shirt on your big ass, but
Yeah.
maybe you're wearing your t-shirts incorrectly, Dylan.
Oh, that explains a lot.
Yeah. No, your arms go through the sleeves, not your legs.
Okay.
That's why it looks like a diaper.
Nice.
All right. Bye, Dylan.
Bye.